Greetings and welcome back, Guardians. And this one, I wanted to take a stab at something that I haven't really done on the channel before, but I want to see how you guys feel about it. See if you guys agree with me. See if you guys would have enjoyed this maybe a little bit more. And specifically, what I'm pointing towards is how would I have written Siva back into the story, especially if I wanted to bring Siva in, maybe for closing that chapter of Destiny 2's history. And obviously, I haven't been a part of the game since Destiny 1. A lot of you know from being, frequent to the channel, but also from, just seeing, as I've shown on stream before with my time wasted on Destiny. I joined Destiny 2 in Season of Plunder. So mine is going to be a lot of from my rewrite is going to be a lot from experience and from everything I've read and watched in terms of old content and kind of what I understand, especially being as balls deep in the lore as possible, where you guys have seen me read into things and completely take, something small, and eventually, like with things before, we found out that Maya had to have been the abductor with information as far back as a grimoire card of Destiny 1. So for this one, this was really spurred on by a tweet that I saw that someone put out saying, how would you rewrite SIVA? Just a very simple question, very simple offer on trying to see if, I guess, we could make it more interesting than what we got in Ash and Iron. Not to say that it couldn't be more interesting as the weeks go on, but as of right now, it's kind of just another overthrow activity, and that's all we got. So I'm going to work a little bit off of what was already put into the game and just kind of expand on it a lot more, but most of it is going to be new and not what we have currently. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and tell you guys how I would have written SIVA back in and gotten us back into the Plague Lands, and you tell me if you would want me to go help Miss Allison and the rest of the lore team get us a good story together. Appreciate the hell out of that. So here we go. First up, number 1. The attack on the tower was kind of lackluster. There was definitely some ways we could, buffer that out. I would say, especially with the shops being closed down and everything that I noticed, that what we should have had happen is maybe we were just kind of doing some extra things late at night, and in order to be alerted that there's an attack suddenly on the tower, we get alerted by Archie. So Archie comes running around, starts barking, he starts running about the tower. Barking, making noise, trying to get anyone's attention. And you could have made it where it was a very short cutscene, maybe 10, 15, 20 seconds, where, we notice Archie's just sprinting around the tower, just barking, 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 and getting our attention. We finally follow Archie to what's going on. We see that the Vex harpies are just kind of floating around and, taking up Golden Age, artifacts, or just looking around to try and find something. So they're scanning. And that kicks us into, hey, we need to kick them out of the tower. Maybe we set some alarms off, and that's whenever the Red Jacks kick in, help us out, and we, do the mission as it was. As the mission finishes, though, and they all kind of escape with whatever they've been able to find or gather, we, kind of have the Red Jacks spread out across the tower, go to check other corners of the tower in the city, and then we could have another 10, 15, 20-minute cutscene, not minute, but second cutscene, where, we talk with Ikora and Zavala and try and figure out, how did this happen? Where did they come from? And what were they looking for? And in the middle of the conversation, we may look out over the last city in the EDZ and see that visage of Maya that's very commonly seen in the Reclaim activity, where her giant head is just floating and looking over the landscape. But we could see that start to appear in the distance over where the Plague Lands should be, which would give us that kind of usual, and this is from my experience even in the last couple of years, the usual Destiny way of giving that like random hint in the cutscene to be like, that's where we need to go. And someone can just simply mention, like Ghost could mention, isn't that the Plague Lands? And then that's the end of the cutscene. That way we kind of get that excitement of, oh wait, okay, we're gonna go back there. So there's that. Furthermore, though, with the cutscene, what I would like to see is with Archie not only giving us a warning about the attack on the tower, he whines at us and nudges us to try and get our attention, the Guardian's attention. And the reason being is because when we finally acknowledge him and kind of, maybe hunker down to look at what he needs or what he wants, he will kind of shimmy to his side and show us the screen that's on his abdomen. And this would pull up a message that's been left by Rasputin. And this here makes sense because Archie, for those of you who may not know, but we covered it a long, long time ago because Season of the Seraph was, God, honestly, like a perfect season to me. I loved every bit of Season of the Seraph, even though it was very sad. But Archie is a gift that Rasputin left before we unplugged him for Anna. That way she had always had some sort of companion to remember him by, and Anna was not left alone again after the collapse like Rasputin was. He gave it to Anna specifically to say, I'm not going to leave you alone after what is my second collapse. But along with that, this makes more sense as well because he left a note for Anna in Archie, similar to what he's showing us now. So Archie shows us on the screen that there's a message left from Rasputin that's addressed to Rasputin's Seraph. So it may be my beloved Seraph, my trusted Seraph, something along those lines, right? And it addresses us and informs us that he has left a powerful weapon within a vault. It's within a Warsat vault. And if the time should come that we are desperate enough to need a powerful weapon like the Warsats ever again, that weapon lies within that vault. And they could probably put in a hint here that it's in the quarantine plague lands, but not make it too obvious, where like Rasputin's just like, hey, I left it in the plague lands for you. Because then that kind of leads and gives us at least that inkling to the exotic mission, because it looks like we're going into another Warmind vault. So make the little, leave the breadcrumbs now sort of moment. And that's the thing with the tower. That's our introduction. That's our exposition. We get attacked at the tower. Archie's involved, alerts us. Then we get the Vex out, take them out. Archie gets our attention, gives us the inclination that there's a weapon. We get the little hint that we're going to the Plague Lands with Maya's visage, and now we've left the initial breadcrumbs of, okay, we're going back to the Plague Lands. Rasputin is suddenly coming out of hiding again in Archie, and there's a weapon that we can get that's super powerful. Bingo. Huge setup for so much for people excited for and to wait for, like they normally did with seasons. And next, so after that, after this whole initial sequence, whenever we actually go to the Plague Lands and finally decide we're going to go, when we arrive, I believe it should have been completely assimilated, overcome with SIVA. Kind of like the similar, I guess, veins, you could call them, or wires and roots, as they're kind of portrayed. But I would want it to where the entire land is nothing but wires and chunks of SIVA material everywhere. It could still be inert, so you could still kind of give it this like deserted vibe that they're going for. But what I would do is I would make it to where the roots and everything are inert, so they look off, but if you pay attention for long enough, or if you spend enough time, you start to notice that they blink, or there's a little flicker of energy still going through them. So that way it shows you SIVA's not dead. It's just inert, or it doesn't have enough power, or therefore not enough organic and inorganic material left to assimilate. It has swallowed everything it possibly can within the Plague Lands, and so it's starting to lose power because it doesn't have anywhere to go. Or you could also lead this into it's losing purpose. So it's losing this kind of need or want to continually evolve and continually assimilate because it's gotten everything and we had it quarantined. So that's how I'd want it to look. That way we could kind of have more of a conversation with Anna or whoever is looking through our lens to be like, oh, it's not quite dead yet. Imagine walking into the Plague Lands and it's all very barren, very dark, very drab, and like you don't see the little flicker of energy just. And then whenever it happens, Ghost can chime in and say something and say, wait, and they like be scared that it's about to wake up, but then Anna and Rasputin could chime in and be like, oh, it's not dead yet. So something's wrong, something's off. It's not able to activate as easily as it was, or have the swarm of nanites going through the air, and because it's losing so much power. Now, Maya's Cabal and Vex would still be a part of the whole thing, um, but I would have written it to where she's much more focused on commanding and stabilizing this imperfect Siva, because we've seen perfected Siva. That's how Neomuna was built. That is the metallic substance we're seeing in the Quicksilver items, as well as on the Cloud Striders like Nimbus and Rohan. R.I.P. Brohan, bro. But that is, now the focus of Maya, where if she wants to be this unstoppable force that she knows she can be, because the Echo of Command and Takal within that Echo is able to command anyone, the Cabal, the Vex, us, she is not going to stop. And she knows that Siva is there. If she could command swarm of nanites and this imperfect Siva to assimilate anything and everything she wanted, just like it did with the Siva splicers, she would be unstoppable. And I feel like that should be her goal. Is she doesn't want to come in to take Siva or anything like that. She wants to come to command it, to do her bidding, and thus increase her reach across the galaxy. So that could still be part of it. Reclaim, sure. I don't ask me how to fix Reclaim or make it unique. I'm not going to be the one to be able to tell you that, because I do feel like it's just overthrow. But, I mean, and that's for another time. After this, once we have this initial introduction to how the Plague Lands is going to look and how it's not quite dead yet, we should be led on a quest to help us locate the vault that Rasputin left in his message. Because if he didn't leave the location, then we can kind of use hints or talk with Anna, and it'll kind of incorporate those characters again, right? Instead of Anna just kind of jumping out of nowhere in a bunch of dialogue and stuff, it actually brings Archie and Anna back into the spotlight, but also with Iron Banner being kept away for so long and being a very important inclusion when we're going back to the Plague Lands, lead us to, lead part of this quest to go to Saladin and have us speak with Saladin about the vault and end up in a conversation where Saladin tells us that he knows that vault very well and where the weapon is, because him and his Iron Lords fought their way out of it, and make it the same vault where they tried to go to stop Siva and stop Rasputin and the Warsats at that time, but they failed and had to fight their way out, and Saladin was the only survivor. But with this makes more sense and connects in more ways than most people might know, because we found out through a bunch of lore, whenever, unfortunately we lost Amanda and a bunch of other things, that Fellwinter, the Iron Lord himself, Fellwinter, was Rasputin. And so Rasputin, we're showing that this connection that Rasputin had, we're putting it in the forefront, number one, for everyone to connect the dots. Rasputin was Fellwinter. Fellwinter and the Iron Lords are connected, so Saladin knew Rasputin way before he was a Warmind. And then we go even further to now make this connection later on, where we have to go back to this vault and bring up these bad memories for Saladin. And then Saladin, of course, is going to warn us of the danger and explains and refreshes newer Guardians who may have joined now what happened in Rise of Iron and with Siva, where, we find out what happened to those, Iron Lords once again, maybe more brief, but this brings newer Guardians up to speed. And then now those newer Guardians have the context that he will not ask us to go into that Warmind Vault because he knows the danger and he lost his Iron Lords and his friends when originally trying to make the attack themselves. And so, of course, we decide to still go through because the vault is sealed. And they were not able to open it, and they didn't want to specifically for the quarantine. But now, whenever they go, say Anna is able to find it in the quest at some point. She's able to locate it with the help of Archie, but they can't get in. The only access that's allowed is to Rasputin's Seraph. So we are the only ones who are able to open the vault and actually access what's inside. Therefore, we have to be the ones to go in. And this sets us perfectly, sets the stage perfectly for the exotic mission. The exotic mission should be, we are fighting our way in. So make it a complete reverse of the situation that happened with the Iron Lords. Saladin explains to us that he and his Iron Lords had to fight their way out because they were overwhelmed by SIVA. They were not going to make it out alive, and eventually he had to be the lone survivor to shut the door and be left. But now we are doing the opposite. We're going back into this vault and fighting our way in as the Seraph. We're going to get this weapon, and we will get it at whatever cost needed. And then you make the exotic mission that fight, going through the vault, opening the doors, accessing things. And then when we fight our way in, this is where you bring back SIVA splicers, SIVA infected enemies. It could be SIVA infected Cabal. It could be anything, man. It could be just like, I even thought of this horrid idea, and this, like, it's not horrid, but it's like more of a horror aspect where if you guys have played Encore, you've probably had to sit through the dialogue where you find out that Maya has been pulling Chioma Essie's copies out of the VexNet, putting them into exoframes, and then degaussing them whenever they don't answer correctly. I've had this horrible idea of, like, if Maya dumped those exoframes somewhere, that in the dungeon we end up having like SIVA infected like exoframes that fight at us, kind of like how Red Jacks would, and it just be a super cool idea. I mean, it's definitely out there, but like I would have loved that. But then, this gives hype for the exotic mission. If people go in, say they kept it radio silent, never told us that SIVA enemies would be coming back, and then they just hit us with this exotic mission, and some people may not jump into it right away, but those of us who do and stream it and post videos will be able to post that SIVA's back. We've got these SIVA enemies back, SIVA splicers, however you want to put it, and they're just crazy looking. They're like almost Flood level of looking, right? Like imagine the Flood from Halo, but completely twisted in Destiny's version with SIVA and being infected that way. I feel like that would be such a, oh man, now even talking about it out loud, like that would just be the most perfect caveat for it. But that's the exotic mission. So obviously we go in with the exotic mission, we go fight those, we fight our way in, make it as difficult as you want, who cares, and then we get the axe, because I know for a fact it's going to be that axe they keep showing off, because it's got the like Warsat looking, and like Warsat mixed with SIVA look to it. Then the dungeon itself should be, again, a more SIVA focused dungeon. And we're going in with the weapon to find the source of SIVA and finally put it into it, find its remaining power source that's keeping it online but inert, and sever its connection and power in every way possible. This prevents us from using it, it prevents the quarantine from being needed anymore, and it also prevents Maya from obtaining SIVA in an imperfect form and thus taking over the world with nanites. And this way, the reason I have all of this written this way, and especially with the dungeon is supposed to be the big thing released. This expansion. And with that, we should be using it to close a chapter officially and, with hands-on with the player base. We shouldn't just be artificially kind of closing this chapter with SIVA in the Destiny universe by saying, oops, they're all dead. Like, I don't like this sudden, like, oh yeah, you're going back to the Plaguelands. Oops, it's all dead. Sorry about you. Like, all your hype and your excitement for going back and the SIVA and you might as well give me 2 middle fingers. But this would give us a way to not only incorporate Rasputin, Ana, Archie, Saladin into the main spotlight, into the story with the Plaguelands once again. It will give us a chance to refresh people on the story who are maybe newer and don't understand everything with the Plaguelands totally. But then it'll also give us this really hands-on way to close out SIVA from the story and do it ourselves. Because what I'm worried with this is I really don't like the idea of we've just been grinding and doing all this other stuff. And then now, just kind of in dialogue and, oh boy, you went and it's all dead. Hey, good job. Thumbs up. You didn't really do anything, but SIVA's gone now. So, like I said, it's not to say that with what's coming in Ash and Iron that some of this couldn't come true. or some of this couldn't be the case, that they're just staying radio silent to kind of hype us up, or it's not really going to hype us up, it's really kind of disappointing everybody, but to kind of hit us in the face with a surprise later on. I feel like what I've presented in this video would be a much better way and a much more interesting way for all of us as players to interact with the Plague Lands again, interact with some old characters that really haven't been as important. Because the last time Saladin's been really important was in Season of the Risen, with what happened with Crow and him being now taken to be the war captain for Keitel and for the Cabal. But that will bring these people back into the spotlight and give us a bit more fun. But then again, I think my main focus is give people the hype that they want and that they would look for. Know your player base, man. This is what we're looking for. And then also giving us a reason and a way to be the ender of SIVA. Be the ones who end it. And that way we can say, just like we did with the Witness, we want to be the ones to give the final blow. We do. That's what we love. We love giving the final blow and turning them into weapons. That's how it's always been. So for me, it's one of the things where, yeah, you just really, you're looking at it and you're saying, hey, you know, I don't get which direction they're going. Give us the chance to close the chapter ourselves, and then I can say, yeah, I was there in Destiny when we finally finished off SIVA, when we finally finished off the Witness, when we finally killed Callus. Like, those moments are what makes Destiny as important as it is. So, you know, with that, I did rant pretty quick. As you can tell, I was pretty passionate with rewriting this and taking my hands on with this and going, hey, I'm just going to write it out. And this is kind of how I would do it, just for like the shorter season that we've got. And it would give us a quest, give us some more insight, give us some more, you know, purpose and drive and focus, and a more like clear cut like story with everything that's going on. And I just wanted to share it with you guys to see how you guys feel. So if you made it this far in the video, all the way to the end, listen to my crazy passionate ranting, you know, my lore, you know, prowess and expertise and whatnot, whatever you want to call it. I would greatly appreciate your opinions in the comments. Maybe if you want to add something, change something a little bit, adjust it, you know, let me know. I'd love to know what your guys' ideas would be, especially with some of you being much older Destiny players than myself. That's one thing that I always make sure to stay humble about, is a lot of you guys have been here for the story a lot longer than me. So give me your ideas, give me your opinions. Would you prefer this to be what we went through? And then, like I said, if I did apply to be a QA tester for Bungie, so we'll see if that, you know, how that goes, if that goes anywhere. But if you guys think that it would be helpful to also have me just help out the lore team and be like, hey, this is what we should do, this is how the narrative should go for it, and I promise you people will be down for it. Show them down below, and I'd appreciate it a ton. Other than that, though, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and this rewrite of SIVA, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.